Good morning, everyone, and welcome along to Liverpool News Daily. We are live on the Blood Red YouTube channel and Liverpool.com Facebook and Twitter. I'm your host for today, Patrick Smith, and I'm joined by Liverpool.com's Ben Bokshak, and we'll be talking through a few transfer rumours today. No shock there. That's been the theme of all the transfer news dailies this week. So let's start then, shall we, with Manu Kone. I think that's the one that interests me the most, Ben, if I'm being personal. According to Fabrizio Romano, he's tweeted that talks took place this week between Liverpool and Monchengladbach, with Kone's agents also and representatives there. It's thought to be in the region of £30 million. Sport BILD have also described Liverpool's interest as big, and apparently Monchengladbach need to get some quick income in the summer. So what's the latest on this one, and what else have you heard on the front of Manu Kone?
Yeah, I mean, it's looking exciting at the moment, isn't it? There's lots of links, lots of reports. He's been linked with Liverpool in the past, if I remember correctly, a few years ago. He's always been kind of on the radar of Liverpool as one of those who gets mentioned when there's transfer rumours about him, and when there's transfer rumours about Liverpool, they do tend to go together. And it feels like the right time for him to perhaps move on, and obviously the right time for Liverpool to recruit a midfielder as well. So yeah, it seems like the stars are kind of just aligning perfectly for this transfer, and I think it makes a lot of sense for Liverpool. I know he had a little bit of a knock towards the end of the season, but he has played a lot of games, which is encouraging because he had a few knocks here and there previously at Borussia Monchengladbach, and I think just to see him play almost a full season is very encouraging for Liverpool as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely an exciting talent, isn't he? And he's a midfielder that would suit a Liverpool side, as you say. You know, he's very energetic, quick, strong, very good on the ball, good, very progressive. But I think the main problem people have got, as you mentioned there, he's played a lot of games. I think he's only 22 or 20, maybe 21. I think he's just turned 22, isn't he? He's played a lot of games for a 22-year-old, and he's also had a lot of injuries. I mean, you know, he's been doing the rounds on Twitter. I think he's had a number of injuries all across his body, including a couple of big ones like a medial collateral injury, I think. Now, I just think that could pose a problem for this transfer, Ben, because with Monchengladbach looking to sell him to cash in as they need the money, there's something that's got to be wrong there. Do you not think? Maybe the injury record could be the catch to this transfer.
I mean, yeah, like I said, I would have been concerned maybe last season, and I think maybe that's the reason why Liverpool didn't go for him last season. But this season, he's only missed a couple of games in the Bundesliga due to injury. He's played, I think, around 30 or more games. So that's an encouraging sign that he's kind of back to match sharpness, match fitness, and I think for some players when they're younger, it's normal to be injured more frequently. I think that just happens, especially for players like Kone's physical stature. You know, when you're tall and your body kind of is still adjusting because you're still growing at that age as well. And I think in that sense, Steven Gerrard was kind of similar. He didn't really get going, and he had a few injuries and a few niggles. I think maybe Curtis Jones might be similar in that sense as well. I think sometimes when you're that age and when you're that sort of profile, you will get more injuries when you're younger, but that should sort of ease out as you get older and as your body kind of adjusts to like the demands of the game and everything else. So I'm not necessarily concerned. I think he's got a lot of quality, and I think he'd be coming in as probably a squad player as well. I don't see him as a starter straight away. So I think I think as well, like the upsides is really positive in terms of the kind of quality he brings. He's someone who reads the game really well. Probably another Fabinho in that sense, in terms of giving a protective layer to the defense and the midfield, and I think as well he on the ball he's quality stands out too, and I kind of like as well that he came through the same sort of system as Ibrahima Konate, and I can see similarities in their playing style. Obviously, they both were at Paris FC, so that's kind of interesting as well. A bit of a reunion for them.
Yeah, they'll definitely know each other, won't they? Pretty similar ages, so that would be an interesting reading. But it's a good point you make, though, about Gerrard and even Curtis Jones of recent times having these injury problems at a young age, but then coming through. But I've just actually looked at Manu Kone's injury history, and he's really not missed that many games, as you say. But I think the tweet we've all been seeing is rather misleading because he's only actually missed 7 matches this season, which isn't that many at all, including 4 basically during pre-season. So those injury problems look a lot worse than they are when you glance at a graphic. So yeah, he's definitely actually not got that many injury problems. I'll retract that comment I made. But let's move on then, shall we, to the next talking point. Let's talk about Caoimhin Kelleher, shall we? Because the Republic of Ireland boss Stephen Kenny, he's had a press conference and he's basically said that he expects him to look for a new club in the summer to get some more minutes. I mean, the Ireland manager surely is going to want him playing more minutes as Gavin Bazunu, threatens the number 1 jersey at Ireland. Now, what do you make of this, Ben? Do you think Kelleher, should start looking for minutes elsewhere for the safety of his career, particularly at international level?
I mean, yeah, as a Liverpool fan, I want him to stay around as long as possible. But you also got to keep the players' interests at heart, and I think it's going to do him no good at 25 years old to still be sitting on the bench for Liverpool and playing a few games every season. I think he needs regular game time now. He needs to be playing first team football, and just not just for the sake of his Ireland career. I think for the sake of his career in general.
Yeah.
I think he is at that age where even for a goalkeeper, he's not necessarily young anymore, and I think he probably should want to move on. I know Liverpool will probably be reluctant to lose him because you'd struggle to find a better second choice goalkeeper, and it's going to be difficult for whoever steps in. I mean, Adrian has had his struggles. I know he's staying on at the club, but I personally wouldn't be too comfortable with him being second choice, and I think a lot of Liverpool fans would be on my side as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting with Keller, isn't it? Because there's been a few contradictions of late. I mean, Klopp's publicly come out and said in a couple of press conferences that he doesn't want him to go, and he's surprised at the notion that he would go. But then, you've got to look at it. It's hypothetical. Kelleher is arguably going to want to start getting minutes. I think now is probably the time if a decent offer comes in. So I just think Liverpool would have to get a second choice goalkeeper. Then you mentioned there that Adrian probably wouldn't be enough. I mean, are there any academy goalkeepers you know of that are decent enough, or would it be a case of going out and signing another second place keeper?
I think all the academy keepers are not quite ready yet. I think they still need a bit of time. Apart from Pitaluga, none of them have really had that much senior experience. I mean, perhaps Viteslav Jarosz, who's been on loan in a few non-league clubs and football league clubs as well. Perhaps him, but I think going from playing in non-league and League Two to playing for Liverpool is a big step up, and I think you probably want to bridge that gap. But then again, Kelleher, he went straight into Liverpool's first team and never really had a loan spell. So I think it all depends if they're mentally ready as well. I think you never know with a goalkeeper until they're actually there and they need to step up. So yeah, it's difficult. I think perhaps those two are the closest in terms of having been out on loan and having experienced senior football, but it's going to be interesting to see if there are perhaps others as well. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think the main thing that may sway Kelleher staying for at least just one more year, maybe, is the Europa League. Because if Liverpool in the Champions League, you're starting Alisson Becker in all his matches. Whereas personally, I'd be playing Kelleher in all the Europa League games. I'd probably give him the whole tournament, to be honest. Maybe Klopp will change it for the semi or the final, but I think it's the competitions where he'll give Kelleher the League Cup, the FA Cup, and the Europa League this season. So I think that'll make him stay. And then hopefully Liverpool in the Champions League next year, and then maybe he'll look to move on. But we'll leave that one there. It's certainly an interesting one. I mean, no one really knows what's going to happen with Kelleher this summer. I'd say it's probably 60-40 at the moment that he'll stay, but there's so many contradictions in the story, as I say. Anyway, let's move on then to another Bundesliga midfielder, Ryan Gravenberch. Michael Reschke is a sporting director over in Germany. I can't remember the club that he's the sporting director of, or if he's still in a role. But apparently Liverpool really wants midfielder Ryan Gravenberch. This guy's done an interview with Die Bayern-Woche. So, yeah, what do you make of that, Ben? Do you think Liverpool do really want Ryan Gravenberch? And, should they really want Ryan Gravenberch?
I mean, I think it's another one. Like, every time Gravenberch's name is mentioned when it comes to a transfer, Liverpool always seem to be there from his Ajax days as well. And I think, I like him. His playing style is I think would suit Liverpool. He brings a lot of energy. He's very technically gifted. He's a smart, intelligent footballer as well. Obviously hasn't had the greatest of times at Bayern, and Bayern are being linked with a few midfielders as well. So if I was him, I'd want to leave as well. And I think if I was Liverpool and there is the potential of a cut price to get him for a kind of cheaper than you would be able to get a player of his quality, I think I would go for it. I think the sort of risks outweigh. I just think there's more benefits than risks that are involved with this transfer. I think even if it doesn't work out because of his age, Liverpool could still probably sell him for the same amount in a couple of years' time as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely the reason that I'd be going for it as well. He's still young enough. It's clearly been tough for him at Bayern Munich, and it's also one of the toughest midfields to break into in the world. So it's no surprise that it hasn't quite worked out for him. But do you think then, let's say a hypothetical midfield of, bringing in Manu Kone, Ryan Gravenberch, and Alexis McAllister, do you think that's enough for Liverpool next season to, fire them back into title contention, or is that more of a top four challenging midfield? Would you say?
I think for now, because of their age, probably just the top four. But I do think it's enough longer term to challenge for the title. Maybe next season get a few more additions in and see how the squad is. I think for now, I think the main priority for Liverpool is to get back in the top four. Challenge for the Europa League title. Maybe win an FA Cup or a League Cup, just to be there and challenge again. And I think for that, it's good enough. Even if it's not Gravenberch, Keller and Thuram is another one who's being linked. I think if you get Thuram, Kone, and McAllister, I'd be pretty happy with the summer transfer window. I think, at least for the midfield, I still think there's probably a few other transfers that could arrive at the back and in attack. But in terms of the midfield, I'd be pretty content with that.
Yeah, could not agree more with you as well on the front of. They definitely need to get at least one defender. I'd say two defenders, maybe even a cheeky attacker like an actual out-and-out winger to use for the Europa League. You never know. But we'll leave that on there for today. Then some pretty interesting stories. Let's hope then that they can get Manu Kone over the line. Maybe they'll take a risk on Ryan Gravenberch and Caoimhin Kelleher. Who knows what is going to happen? That's going to become a little saga, to use once for a better phrase. But anyway, we'll wrap that show up today. We'll be back on Monday with every weekday, bringing you the Liverpool News Daily at 10 a.m. across the Blood Red YouTube channel and Liverpool.com, Facebook and Twitter. And in the meantime, check out all the other content going up on Blood Red. We'll give you your fix during the off-season. And, of course, the articles on Liverpool.com from our brilliant writers like Ben. But now, for myself, Patrick Smith, and Ben Boxshak, thank you so much for joining us on the Liverpool News Daily. We'll catch you again next week.